Hey, welcome everyone. Warm welcome to everyone, and good evening and good morning, based on the location you are. Uh, this is the culture and collaboration track, and we have an eminent person with us, which I am glad to introduce. Uh, I have Anand Murthy Raj. He is a leader with vision to bring great difference and excellence to any organization. With around 22 years of IT experience, uh, he has a strong background uh, in every aspect of an organization, be it from agile coaching, process management, people management, or partner management. So, wealth of experience that he brings here. He is the first professional to have completed SPCT program. He has a list of certifications in agile coaching. He had conducted safe agile certification training globally to more than 1,200 professionals. That's in a short span of 15 months, and the success rate of around 99% of pass percentage. So warm welcome to Anand, and I know everyone will enjoy the session. Handing it over to Anand.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this wonderful introduction. I'm not going to talk anything about technical today. I'm talking a little different. I'm talking about something very different. How do we live agility in the COVID world? While it was not okay for organizations to think about not being agile before the COVID times, I think post-COVID times, even thinking of not being agile is a clean path for suicide. It's a suicidal path. So my talk is going to focus on how do we actually live agility in COVID and post-COVID world. For those of you who are thinking that post-COVID world, somewhere in next year, March, April, we will come back to what we were before in March, April of this year, I'm sorry, the world will be very different. I'm going to tell you why the world is different and how we need to cope up, how organizations need to cope up. The inspiration for me to talk about this session has come from this great man. I'm like Ekalavya, I haven't met him, but I consider him as my guru, Captain Raghuraman. This is a quick introduction about myself. I think my introduction was already given, so I won't spend much time talking about myself. First of all, let's understand what's the challenge we are living in today. The world has seen different types of systems. The first picture, what you see on the left, is a set of nails. Frederick Taylor, so-called the father of the scientific project management system, created this concept of assembly line. Initially, he asked an engineer to take a piece of wire, cut it, taper it on one end, hammer it on the head to create a nail. Then he did something very different. He split the work among 3 engineers and said, one would cut the wire, one would taper the one end, the other would hammer the other end. The productivity was exponential. This is called as simple systems. Simple system is where action response is highly repeatable and predictable as well. The world slowly moved to something called as complex systems. Now, what is a complex system? Complicated system. A complicated system is something like a game of chess. There is a set of coins. There are a set of rules. The king can only go in one step. The queen is very powerful. The elephant can go in one direction. The horse can go in one direction. The camel can only jump a number of steps, etc. There are a set of rules. In these rules, when you start playing the game of chess, you can start it in number of ways. 10 moves into the game, you have number of options to play. And it is said that 20 moves into the game, you are playing the game which is never played before. Which means to say that the opportunities to change the game is very high, but it is with a set of rules. Generally, somebody with more experience will win this game. The person with more experience wins this game. This is called complicated systems. Third type of systems are called as complex systems, what we are trying to see now. This is a carom board. You set the coins and ask the world's most successful CEO to strike the board. CEO would do it. put the coins back again, ask the same CO to strike again, and ensure that the coins will move again in the same direction. It is impossible. You cannot repeat anything in this board. Right? Even 1 micron change in the angle would create a change in the dispersion would be very, very different. It is impossible even for the world's most successful CEO to play the same shot again. And that is what is called as the complex systems. The last one is called as a butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is a flap of butterfly in Bangalore could trigger a tsunami in Japan. That's called butterfly effect. You really don't know which is the flap that will create a problem. You really don't know which is the startup that will create havoc to the large corporates. So the world has moved into these kind of systems. And if you still feel that I would ask the requirements to be fixed, I would do the design, then I would do something, in a sequential way, it's a disaster. It is not possible anymore. So we have to change the way we are thinking in. Let's take a little deep dive into what Frederick Taylor actually said. Frederick Taylor created something called scientific project management or scientific management, where he said that this entire scientific management can be done by 3 roles. The first role is called as the experts. Experts possess knowledge. They define the process. The second set of people are called managers. They don't add value to the system, but they indirectly add value by managing the process. The third set of category is people who do the action or the workers. They said that workers blindly follow the process. Only then you get a feedback. The feedback loop is highly delayed in the system. And he also said that once the expert figures out the best possible way to solve the problem, you don't have to change it. And this is also an example of handoffs. And you know, handoff is such a big waste in today's world because feedback is very important. And if this system delays the feedback, then it is not at all possible to build these kind of complicated and butterfly effect systems in this model. And he said that once you define a process, there is no need to change it. So this system is completely gone. It is not at all possible to work in this way now. Let's understand the kind of market we are looking at. Looking at the picture on the left side here, I'm sure all of you will know what company I'm talking to. Is Apple a company which is a technology company or a lifestyle company or a healthcare company? Technology, they do all kind of electronic technology products. So they are a technology company. Lifestyle, of course, with the iPhone, they've changed our lifestyle. You would love to go, you cannot go out of the house without your phone. You're okay to go without your heart. Right? And the watch. Watch is more or less like a healthcare company. It can tell your blood pressure. It can tell you everything about you. A day would come when the heart will tell when we are going to die. Sure, the day will come. Right? You can probably compete Apple here, but there is something else that Apple does which you really cannot compete. Steve Jobs was a very good fan of calligraphy. That is why you see there is enormous focus of the right font on a Mac system. And he was also a practicing Zen. That is why you see the number of interface touch points are so less in Apple. The design is simplicity is their core of their design, the user experience. And then look at the way how beautifully they pack their products. I purchased a phone in 2018. I've still kept the box with me because the box is so beautiful. How do you compete with beautiful? You could compete with technology, you can compete with lifestyle, you can compete with healthcare, you can compete with Google in terms of its search speed, you can compete with Amazon saying that I'm going to deliver it in half a day. But how will you compete with beautiful? Because certain things cannot be measured, it has to be experienced. The world is moving into this kind of a zone now. What kind of requirements will you fix? It is not possible. The other important aspect is about the challenges that the organizations will see moving forward. I don't know how many of you know today, in the cloud, we have 400 million gigabytes of data. This was in 2018 September. Today, we are in 2020 August. I don't know how many more thousands of gigabytes have been added. Like, there was an incident that happened in San Bernardino in December 2015, where a husband and couple who are kind of influenced by the ISIS mindset took up a gun, shot 12 people dead, and injured 14 of them. The FBI came, neutralized them. They found their Apple phone. The FBI took the Apple phone, their iPhone to the Apple and asked Apple to open up the password. Apple said it is not possible because Apple has signed there is a declaration that we'll all agree to saying about the privacy policy. Today, would you focus on privacy policy or will you support on national security? Even as we are talking today, look at the paper, you can see Google's CEO and Microsoft CEO being summoned by the United States court for some sort of similar discussion. This is the kind of challenges that we are going to see. A lot of legal security related issues will come in. We are also moving into the new word called quantum computing. I don't know how many of you have done a research on quantum computing. Now, quantum computing can actually look at every cell of our human body, can analyze the DNA structure of each human body, and then if there is anything wrong in the DNA structure, it can kill that particular cell. That means these are very, very powerful computers. The computers, what you see today, so-called the most powerful computer, is no way comparable to a quantum computing. That's the kind of technology we are trying to build. And today, with RSA 2048 encryption, it takes 120 billion years to hack your code. With quantum computing, it takes 100 seconds to hack your code, hack your password. What security are we talking now? The world is moving into a totally different world. You really cannot imagine what's going to be the world in the next 25 years. It's going to be very, very different. And what do you understand from this picture? When I ask this question, people talk about water, they talk about some plates. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sahara Desert. The picture at the bottom is your Sahara Desert, where there is thousands of solar panels installed. They are taking it with quantum wires and trying to store this electricity in the form of air molecules. Can't even imagine the technology. On the top left, you see Chile, which is already being done in Chile. Thousands of such panels have been installed, and electricity is being generated and then being supplied. A day might come in when there is no darkness in this world. And engineers are still worried about definition of ready. What kind of DOR can you write for this? And strangely, engineers still ask me today, can we fix the requirements? What kind of requirements can you give for these kind of great ideas that you're trying to build? Organizations are asking for SRS, system requirement specification. You first of all don't know what system you are going to build, what specification you are going to give. That's exactly what we heard in the first keynote, where he clearly said that we have to be engineers, not software developers. And a question to managers who are so fond of productivity, how would you measure productivity here? What kind of productivity metrics can you develop when you're trying to build systems that even you cannot vision at this point in time? How do you measure productivity there? Let me talk about something. Since we're talking about COVID, I would like to talk about 3 diseases that organizations are facing today. And with these 3 diseases, it is impossible for us to live in the post-COVID world or even in the COVID world. Right? Let's go one by one. Arthritis. A simple example, the simple solution for this problem is a knee replacement surgery. Go replace your knees. But what is arthritis? Arthritis is inability to move fast. You really cannot move fast. Let's take a few examples here. 2nd Jan 2016, if you remember what happened in India, most of you may not remember, the Pathankot attack happened. 3 to 6 bloody terrorists from Pakistan came to my country and attacked Pathankot. Pathankot is a very, very critical air base in India, in North India. They attacked Pathankot. After the attack was done, after the terrorists were neutralized, a kind of an RCA was done, and they identified that the walls were not very strong. The walls had to be rebuilt. Strangely, after 9 days, a report was published in the newspaper which said 37,000 crore of defense ministry is being unutilized. So the problem was not with resource. The problem was not with people. The problem was not with schedule. The problem was not with scope. The problem was not with money. What was the problem? The problem is arthritis. We did not act on it. White House, which has something like $800 billion of budget, still with so much of budget that they have, still not able to prevent the Chinese hacking their secret documents. Talk about food production. In India, millions of tons of food is being wasted every year. It's being wasted. And foods can be stored in containers. You talk to Container Corporation of India, they say there are thousands of empty containers. So why are we not storing food in the containers? Clearly, there is something else that plays here. And what is that something else? I'm going to show you in an example. All of you can understand that post-COVID world, we will have to take our large ships, which is synonymous to your organizations, in uncharted waters. You are going in an uncharted water. A small, low engineer, something like a support engineer or somebody who is very low in the hierarchy, sees a iceberg and shouts iceberg. What do you think happens in the control room? The message will never come to the control room because of hierarchy. Because of the steep hierarchy that we have, it never comes. After about a couple of days or a couple of duration of time, let's say, the manager gets up and says that these guys don't know anything. They can't differentiate between an iceberg and a fog, and comes and looks at it and realizes that, in fact, there is an iceberg. Now, this manager makes a lot of noise. The CEO is summoned into the meeting. A committee is formed. There's a lot of discussion to decide whether it is go to the left or go to the right. Right? A lot of discussions are happening. If you go to the left, which direction are we going? What kind of market do we have? If you go to the right, which direction? What kind of market do we really grow? What's going to happen to our share value? All the discussions are happening. During this time, what is happening with the distance between the ship and the iceberg? It's reducing. And now, finally, McKinsey is called, or Gartner's 4 quadrants are written. Now, after all that stuff is done, there is a time when the CEO has to take a call. The CEO says, let's go right. They ditch all the discussions that they're done. They take a right turn. Everybody propels the ship to the right. The nose of the ship will miss the iceberg, but the butt of the ship will hit the iceberg. Now you see water is gushing inside the ship. Because water is coming in, there is drag, and one portion of the ship is going down. You should imagine now, behind left portion of the ship is inside the water. Immediately the managers and other executives tells the CEO, don't worry, we have seen lot kind of such things before, we will fix it. But the whole market is seeing the ship which is half down inside the water. So the management says, let's put water on the right side so that there is uniformity in the drag. Water is filled on the right side. And then everybody says, guys, let's move now. Now what's happening here? What is happening is, as you start propelling your ship, you see that the cost to travel per kilometer has dramatically increased. The economics are moving in a different direction now. And people say, Agile did not work. Continuous delivery is not working for us. We were working previously better. The problem is not with Agile. The problem is with your arthritis to take decisions. Relating to the second talk we heard, after a war, the most important thing is what is left, not what is right. Even here, there is a shift left. The second disease is called as polymyositis. It is basically the hardening of muscles. If you watch this movie called Holiday, A Soldier Never Dies, Akshay Kumar puts his sister in the line of fire to save the country. And in this movie, he talks about a very interesting thing. He says that if you want to neutralize the terrorism in a country, you need to eliminate the sleeper cells. Now, who are these sleeper cells? Sleeper cells are these lines that connect white dots in a network. Right? You have a white dot. That's kind of a prominent location where there is some activity going on. And there is another prominent location where there is an activity going on. And these sleeper cells connect them. If you kill the connection, communication is lost. There is weakening of their cash flow. Now, these guys cannot sit in their secret place. They come out and they get killed. Isn't the same thing happening in organizations? We have created silos. We don't want to talk to each other. Essentially, what is happening here is we have hardened our organization where we don't want to talk to each other. And that's what we call as self-organizing teams, where we talk to each other, where we organize ourselves. Teams with multiple disciplines come together, solve problems. We don't want to have this silo culture. Eventually, but if you try to kill a leader here in the bright spot, a new leader is formed. That is not going to change. If a leader quits, another leader comes. The culture is the same. If you want to change the culture, you have to create an environment where everybody can freely talk. It's an entrepreneurial culture you need to build in. You should focus on network connectors and not just the clusters. It's not going to help us. Let's talk about 50 to 60 years back when Microsoft started. Paul Allen and Bill Gates started Microsoft. Paul Allen saw the power in computing. Bill Gates saw the power in software. And they created a vision and said that we are going to have Windows in every desktop in this world. So when Microsoft started with their vision, they collaborated with Adobe, Autodesk, independent players in the market. They collaborated with HP, Dell, and Lenovo, where they were the hardware manufacturers. They even collaborated with Best Buy, who is their selling partners. So the entire work was a network. They were all friends. Subsequent CEOs came in. Steve Ballmer came in, and he did not like this. He wanted to create Microsoft as one integrated organization which can live on its own. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very tough to live that without proper network. That's when the local Hyderabad boy from India, Satya Nadella, decided two important things. He said, we were friends, we became enemies. He wanted to start a new concept called as frenemies. He said, the key to do everything is to empathize with your customers. Because he said that unless until you keep your leg in their shoes, you don't understand the pain in their legs. And he also realized an important thing, that industry doesn't respect tradition. It respects only innovation. So he decided to break the old tradition, build Microsoft with empathy at its culture. And then he created this entire, definitely everybody became frenemies now. Microsoft has collaborated with Android, Google. Microsoft has collaborated with Dell. Microsoft has collaborated with Apple. Microsoft loves Linux. Samsung and Microsoft. Yahoo uses Bing as their search engine. Microsoft has collaborated with Adobe. Microsoft has collaborated with Amazon. The only way to survive here is collaborate and compete. The strange part with Dell is that when Microsoft started creating their Surface laptops, Dell it's a definite competition for Dell. But do you know that Dell also sells Surface laptops? Because even Dell realized that we have to be frenemies. So ladies and gentlemen, unless until you build this entrepreneur cultural mindset, you cannot survive alone in this world. You need to get everybody's help in order to be successful. You have to compete. At the same time, you have to collaborate. The third important challenge that the organization has is Alzheimer's. What is Alzheimer's? Loss of memory. People are losing memory now. What do you mean by loss of memory? Right? Look at this picture. How many of you have seen this statement? People are our assets. I was working for an organization when the group head came to me and said that people are our assets. And we asked them, do you think that we get a hike this year? He said, why not? We will definitely get a hike. As a group, we have done a wonderful job. But the CEO's message back in November was saying that there is no hike. We all expected this man to call all of us and say that, guys, I thought we would get a hike, but we did not get a hike. There was absolutely no communication. That means all the statements, what they make as people are assets, are no use unless until actions are taken. And one such action was taken on July 7, 2020, when Infosys chartered a flight to fly out 206 staff. Now, this is what I call as respecting the statement called people are assets. Don't forget, don't become a gajini, short-term memory loss about your people. People are the most important assets today. If you lose people, I'm telling you, you'll have to close down your organizations. Let's also understand if this rule is applied only to IT industries or will this rule really apply elsewhere. In the years between 1970 to 1970, I'm sorry, they have made a small typo here. It has to be 1970 to 1975. The elephant population in the Kenyan elephant sanctuary dramatically increased because Kenyan government came up with rules of not killing these elephants. So it became so uncontrollable that the forest department had to take a call. As what happens in a typical corporate during COVID situations where economy is coming down, they also decided to kill some elephants. And who are those elephants? These are elephants like me who are either having white hair or some elephants who don't have hair. These are the two kinds of elephants. People who are kind of managers and above are the elephants who generally will be killed. They killed all these elephants. Imagine in your college days, you are having a cigarette in your hand and your friend's father is coming down. Right? I don't know about other countries, but this is a typical behavior in India at least. Your friend's father is coming down. Suddenly you see the friend's father and you hide the cigarette or give the cigarette to the friend's hand only. You tell your friend, raklo, raklo, a cigarette, raklo. Tera baap aa raha hai, raklo. Now, what was that happening? The friend's father did not see you smoking at all. But the very fact of these senior people coming in brings in a lot of discipline in the system. Now, what did the forest department do there? They identified all the senior elephants. They identified elephants who are old. They identified elephants whom they considered to be unproductive. They identified those. Of course, there are some elephants who had to be killed. Right? They were really very creating a lot of problem. They had to be killed. But they killed all the senior elephants. It is these senior elephants in the organization who knows who is the supplier who can hold our stock for a longer duration of time. It is this senior elephant in the organization who knows where are the water holes in summer when the rivers dry. Without the guidance and without the fear of senior elephants, the junior elephants all decided to become CEOs. Eventually, the junior elephants also died. In short, by removing a few senior people, you killed the entire cult that day. You killed the entire cult. People are your most important assets. You need to remove pests, not just senior people. So what do we do now? How do we solve this corona problem? Do we have to wait for a vaccine or do we have to fight the virus? This is a question that all of us have. One of the biggest change that we need to see in the COVID days and the post-COVID days is the change in the leadership mindset. They have to become an entrepreneurial leader. I'm going to talk about an incident that happened in a place called Hosur, which is about 50 kilometers from Bangalore, where you have this Tata refinery. Tata melts their gold there to create all the products that you get in Tanishq. So it is this factory, and this is the crucible, and these crucibles are used about 10 times before which they become weak and they are generally thrown away. Now, some of the employees tried some scraping off. There are small gold particles still stuck in the crucible. They kind of removed it, but nothing worked. Nothing worked. So they kind of they did some chemical treatments, but they could not get the gold from the crucible. It's so stuck so strongly that they couldn't do it. So everything was dumped in the dump yard. Now what happened was a new engineer joined in. He saw the dump yard. Next day he gets a road roller for 200 rupees rent and keeps all the crucibles, just rolls everything on it and retrieves 1.4 kg of gold. That's the kind of leadership we need. People should seek forgiveness over permission. If you write a letter to the manager saying that I am going to do this and can you help me? No manager will give you permission. This is called psychological safety. You should not have the fear of trying out some experiments in your organization. You should have the openness and courage to try out some experiments. And Tata also awards teams who have failed in trying something but failed. They give them an award. And in order to get this kind of a mindset, the leaders have to start not leading the organization but gardening the organization. Look at the gardener. If you look at the work the gardener does every day, the gardener comes to the garden, takes care of the plants. A couple of important things is the gardener creates an environment where the plants can grow. Right? The plants can grow. And if one tree doesn't produce good plant, he doesn't beat them. He'll fix the soil. Right? That's a typical appraisal problem we have. The problem is the management when we beat the people. He doesn't beat the plant. He or she fixes the soil. They make sure that adequate water is there, sunlight is there. They also remove unwanted weeds and pests in the system. That's the importance of gardening. Because a gardener knows that though bamboo and sugarcane looks the same, you cannot use a sugarcane to build a ladder and you cannot squeeze the bamboo to get a juice. And a gardener never talks this language. The gardener never tells the cactus and the bamboo and say that, hey cactus, look at bamboo, it's growing so fast. If you cannot grow at the same pace, I won't give you permission, I won't give you promotion. The gardener never talks that language. This is what is required in these COVID days. I want to talk about something very interesting, a company called McKinsey. I'm reading the book called The Firm. And in this book, McKinsey is a 94-year-old organization. It has seen 2 world wars, many recessions, and half-life of any incoming batch in McKinsey is 18 months. What do you mean by that? If 20 people join in Jan 2020, by the time it is June 2021, 10 of them will resign and go. Though attrition is so high, this organization has survived for 94 years. Why? The 3 important areas that we have to focus moving forward is routines. McKinsey is very good in developing routines and managing those routines. Based on the market needs, they quickly change. Right? Alumni box, anybody who leaves McKinsey still are respected. They get letters on their birthdays. And these guys who leave McKinsey generally become CEO of some other company. They come back to McKinsey for any kind of consulting help. Knowledge management is very critical. To give you a simple example of routine, daily stand-up, same time, same place with discipline is a routine. And we can't do that. As simple as a routine, we can't do that. World Health Organization has made this statement which says more people worldwide would benefit from improvement to adherence rather than development of new therapies. If you start developing Scrum or SAFe, focus on what you're doing. Improvement to adherence is more important than trying to develop new frameworks. Not required, because we never do properly. We have realized that 70% of the diseases can be solved by cleaning hands before having food. Yet we don't do it. This is what is called inability to do the right thing. If you look at the medical spend in the United States, 70% excess is spent other than cancer and diabetes on diseases that can be prevented by washing your hands. Yet we don't do that. Why? We don't have discipline because it's not a routine in our life. I saw this article a couple of days back on July 28. Nearly 11,000 techies quit TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL and Tech Mahindra. The numbers are given below. Ladies and gentlemen, post-COVID days, you really have to focus on retaining people. If you cannot retain people and give them a challenge and a vision, organizations will fall down. People are our most important assets. Right? Imagine 11,000 people. I don't know whether they were asked to go, whether they went on their own, but yes, attritions are happening. Post-COVID, you can see so many attritions. So attritions are inevitable. HR and leadership should really understand how to retain people, how to build talent. I don't have to say anything about this guy. At one point in time, we all threw stones at him, saying that he needs to retire. But what he did was, he took every stone and converted them into milestones. You need to have resilience. Only people like Sachin Tendulkar or Rahul Dravid, who have good average in home and outside home, are considered to be great players. Otherwise, many players come and go. We don't even remember their name. Right? It was in one of those test matches in Australia where India was chasing a mammoth total of 480, and India had lost 3 quick wickets within 10 runs. Sachin Tendulkar was batting on one side, and there was one more guy, Irfan Pathan, batting on the other side. There was 8 overs to go on day 3, and the Australian bowlers were bowling every ball on his body. He had to take beatings on his hand, on his thigh, on his leg, but he said, hang in there. These are the tough times. We have to hang in. Don't try to take some stupid decisions here. Right? Hang in, wait and watch, take meaningful decisions. Look for longevity. Right? You'll have to focus on how your mind listens to you. That's what is called mindset. For him, it was body. For us, it is mind. There's a very simple difference between attitude and ability. The HR focuses on getting the best possible people because we don't know how to measure attitude. Ability helps you to do complex things. In life, we do complex things only few times. But attitude wins simple things. To hit 6 runs to win a match, you don't have to hit a sixer. 6 singles is enough. Failure is not fatal. If you fail, it's not fatal. If you lose your job now, don't worry, guys. The market is wide open. Focus on improving your skill. And then, from now on, don't call yourself as a developer or a tester. Call yourself as an engineer, which means you need to move from being a resource to being resourceful. He could bat, he could bowl, he could field in the slips, he could field in closer to the batsman, he could field in the boundary. What else do you need? You need to be resourceful, not just a resource in any team moving forward. This is my last slide. I want to talk about something very interesting that changed the humanity. If I make a statement saying that it was this thumb that changed the humanity, nobody will believe me. Go do a bit of a research. If you do research, it says that once upon a time, the primate's thumb was in parallel to our index finger. The problem with these primates was they were never able to climb the tree, and they were never able to walk carefully in the barks, because the fruits and the flowers used to be at the tip of your bark, not at the bark where it gets stuck to the trunk of the tree. So as you start walking, you realize that there is a heavy chance that you will fall down. That's when this thumb started to oppose itself. Now, if you close your hands, if you close your four fingers, it goes in one direction, and if you close the thumb, it is in an orthogonal direction. This opposable thumb made human beings to hold weapons. This opposable thumb made human beings to kill. And after you kill, you wanted to tell your crowd that you have killed something. Slowly, we started raising our back. We started erect. We became erect. And then it was this thumb that made people to shout and tell, I've succeeded in something, which made us build vocal cards. So one opposable thumb changed the behavior of humanity. I think it's time to create an environment where opposable thumbs are encouraged. We need to build opposable thumbs. Otherwise, we will not survive in the COVID days or post-COVID days. Challenge the status quo and then proceed. Before I close, this is what I want you to tell. Trust the wait. We don't know what's going to happen. You need to wait. Trust the wait. Embrace the uncertainty. Enjoy the beauty of what is coming. When nothing is certain, everything is possible. This is from Mandy Hale, and I truly believe that we have to believe anything is possible and embrace uncertainty, and that's the only way to live in this post-COVID era. Otherwise, we are going to be a photograph on the frame. The ball is in your court. You need to decide what to do. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm ready to take.
Thanks, Anand, for an informative session. So surprisingly, I don't see any questions, but there is a lot of feedback in the chat for you. So amazing session, Anand. Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you giving so much amazing insights. There's a lot of positive feedback for you, but I don't see any questions. So guys, if you have any questions, please post your questions in the questions tab. We have 5 more minutes, so Anand can answer those questions. So I try to read the thank you, giving so much amazing insights. It's a worthy session, amazing session, Anand. So the speaker do not need any feedback. He has done his work to bring change in our mindset. Thanks a lot. So
thank you very much for that feedback.
So that's what I feel. I mean, most of the audience feel that there are no questions for you. It seems everyone is happy. So last feedback didn't realize how 40 minutes passed. So they want you to continue for another 30 minutes or 1 hour. So
Before
as
we close,
usual,
let me give you one small example.
yes,
right?
you can. Yes.
How many of you know who painted the famous painting called Mona Lisa? Who was that? Leonardo da Vinci. But do you know how much time he took to paint this Mona Lisa, the most famous painting called Mona Lisa? Do you know how much time he took? He took 22 years to paint the drawing. When life expectancy was 60 years, he spent 1/3 of his life for painting it. He took 9 years to paint her lips. After he started painting her lips, he abandoned the project, went and studied medical. Right? Went and studied medical. He started cutting all the dead animals, trying to understand the way how organs are designed inside the animal body. He even excavated human bodies and did. At that point of time, human bodies could not be removed, but he still did it. After that, before he could complete medical, he went to study physics. He studied optics, refraction, reflection, diffraction, total internal reflection. He studied everything about it. He was also a great painter about how to create weapons. And for your kind information, Da Vinci was the first person who wrote a Google map. Go and do some Googling, you'll understand. The first Google satellite view was of a city called Florence, was done by Leonardo da Vinci. And he lived 700 years ahead of what he was. And then he comes back and paints Mona Lisa, which is the world's best presentation. So Mona Lisa is not a painting. It's science, it's biology, it's physics, it's art, it's life, it's everything embedded in it. I think it's time for all of us to spread our knowledge across various other fields if you want to create a Mona Lisa. Right? Don't think that you are an engineer, I need to learn only this. Go study something different. Only then your gaze will improve. Only then your gaze will improve. Otherwise, you're only stuck in one direction. You'll not be able to get a lot of things. I see there are a couple of questions.
Some questions. I'll read out, Anand.
Yeah.
So one question I see, how to convey leadership. They will talk about numbers always. Any tricks, tips, or techniques?
Plato once said that the world belongs to people who are storytellers. Become a storyteller, you'll be able to change them. You should talk with examples and facts. If you go and talk something theory, nobody will listen to you. Talk with facts, people will listen to you.
Okay. So next question is, please elaborate being resourceful to being resource.
That's what I am saying. Don't think that you are an engineer. If you want, you should go and do design. If required, you should go and work with automation, learn testing, learn how to write test scripts, learn about how to create our integration pipelines, learn performance testing, learn everything. Whatever is there, learn. Then you are available for anything in this world. You become more resourceful. Don't try to say that I am a batsman, I can only bat, because if you fail in that field, you are a failure. So try to expand your gaze. Sitting in India, Aryabhatta could tell that there is one planet called Guru Graha, and he called it Guru because he said that is the heaviest planet. In fact, that is Jupiter. Sitting in India, Aryabhatta could look at the sky and tell that there is one planet called Saturn, which is the slowest planet, because that is what he called Shani, and we know Sadesat. It takes 7.5 years to get rid of Shani. How did he tell that? Because that is what he expanded his gaze. If you want to become a great engineer, you can't just do software engineering. You will have to learn every part of engineering. Maybe even you have to learn even building a house. Everything that you learn in your life is going to give you rewards one day. So try to learn various different things, and suddenly you get wonderful ideas. Then you become resourceful.
Okay, so this question is almost related to this. How do you see infrastructure changes in bigger organizations? Example, tool changes.
Now, like periodic table for all these chemicals. Now you have a periodic table for tools. Tools are there. It is important which tool you have to do. So try to explore a lot of tools and then become a master in a few tools. Now we really what is T-skills? One of my mentor, Dr. Pawan Soni, always tells this. If you want to get salary, go to depth. If you want to get promotion, go horizontal. That is your T-skills. So now you have to go depth as well as you have to learn new things. So tools are going to be, it's a paradox where we say individuals and interactions are process and tools. But without tools, you cannot do DevOps. So it's a kind of a paradox. You need to learn tools, you have to live with tools. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to live with continuous delivery and various other improvements that we're seeing.
Okay. So last question, maybe which may help the audience to become a good speaker like you. So the question is, how often do you read?
Every day, 2 hours. As Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam said, dreams are not what you get when you sleep. Dreams are those that will not allow you to sleep. Get up, start reading. Don't read only IT books. As if you can see my screen, I'm reading this book. If you see my screen, I'm reading this book. If you see my screen, I'm reading this book. All 3 books are totally different. One is on psychology, one is on Black Swan, something on strategy, something Wings of Fire from Abdul Kalam's history. You have to read variety of books. Then only you can succeed. Otherwise, it's difficult.
Okay. So related to this, one more question. He's asking, how much on Agile do you read?
Your DNA should change to Agile.
Okay. So
Like Amitabh Bachchan said in one of the movie, I eat English, I walk English, I sleep English. I eat Agile, I walk Agile, I speak Agile, I live Agile. That should be the passion in which we work.
okay. So I think I have covered all the questions. Maybe one question from my end. So do you have any books for starters to start reading to make it as a habit?
I have a book with me, which is written by um, Hit Refresh is the name of the book. It is
Okay.
written by Satya Nadella, CEO of India, CEO of Microsoft. What I tell is, don't try to read the whole book in one day. Read only 25 pages, but read every day 25 pages. Over a period of time, that becomes a habit. Habit becomes culture.
Okay. Good. I think I have covered all the questions. So there are no other questions. Thanks, Anand, for the wonderful session. It was very informative and thought provoking. Hope this helps the audience to
Thank you,
think.
guys. Before
Yeah.
we close, I just want to give a quote from the Indian Army. This is, अपना किस्मत पर भरोसा मत करो, अपने काबिलियत पर भरोसा करो. Don't believe your luck. Believe your abilities. Time has come for us to grow our abilities. Let's grow. Jai Hind. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thanks, Anand. Before we end the session, thanks audience for attending the session, and we have next session starting at 7:45. Similar to this session, we have 3 more tracks. Please go to the schedule and choose the session whichever is helpful for you. Okay. Thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
Raja.
Okay.
Thank you very much for facilitating it.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.